guys, welcome to Gonky Reacts. I'm Gonky, and it's 31 January 2025. Currently, there's a lot of bad stuff going on in the aviation world. I wanted to touch on something that was a little bit more positive. For those of you who've been following me for a little while, you know I like speed, I like going fast. And just a couple days ago, we had a first in the civilian aviation sector. Well, first for about the last 20 years. So without further ado here, we'll pull it right up right here. The Boom Supersonic XB-1 demonstrator, technology demonstrator. So Boom XB-1 goes supersonic. This is kind of a lead-in aircraft that this company is designing for future commercial aviation. Concorde was the last supersonic airliner that we had, and if y'all remember, about 20 years ago, they had that terrible crash, which ended the Concorde and supersonic commercial air travels. All right, let's watch a supersonic flight attempt. Here we go.
So we just go through all these checks, make sure the airplane is.
That is a good looking airplane. Look at that. 3 engines on the back of this thing. Looks like ATAC.
And again, he gets the support from the ground team.
Looks like ATAC is providing the Mirage for the chase aircraft.
Up indication that we have external. It matches what the pilot is seeing internally as well. As Nick was saying, going over checking the instruments.
They got some pretty cool technology with this airplane. Instead of like drooping the nose like the Concorde used to do, they have basically like a VR goggle type setup, so you can kind of see through the structure using cameras and other technology. It's pretty cool.
Who's pointing out to the pilot where Kurt was underneath.
As you can see, that looking out the front of that thing is not good.
You know, the components there. So now the next component.
Yeah, sure, Greg. Thanks. So
this is pretty cool.
Of course, the objective is to safely break the sound barrier. This would be the first time that XB-1 accomplishes that feat. Previously, we've been to Mach 0.95, just 5% shy of the speed of sound. But we're going to do this today in a very special piece of airspace. We're going to take off, and climb to the east, and then turn around westbound and enter what's called the Bell X-1 Supersonic Corridor. That's a special piece of airspace that's famously named after Chuck Yeager in the first ever supersonic flight of any aircraft back in 1947.
It's cool.
We have special permission to perform this mission today from the Federal Aviation Administration. They've given us a special waiver to perform today's supersonic testing. This will be the first time any civil aircraft has ever gone supersonic over the continental United States.
So that's super cool. A good nod to say to Charles Yeager. We'll just call him Charles Yeager. YouTube doesn't like it when I abbreviate his first name. Shocker. But yeah, the original, the Bell X1, right? So went supersonic in 1947. So it looks like they're going to do it in the same airspace. And it's even cool. They named it the XB-1 as, I think, also a nod to the X1. So I think it's interesting to note the shapes of the aircraft and design have changed, right? The Bell X1 was shaped a lot like a 50 caliber bullet because that was a known shape that could exceed the speed of sound back in the 40s. Obviously, the XB-1 doesn't look like it looks fast, but they've definitely refined the shape that's required for supersonic flight. And I just think it's so cool. There's a T-38 there and an F-1 is a chase ship. So let's see these guys get airborne.
Yeah, so what we're seeing here right now, Geppetto's actually just doing some engine checks.
Looks like he's running up his engines. Here goes the middle engine.
Within parameters, limits.
So this is like test pilot nerd stuff here that operational fighter pilots don't care about. We just want to slam it in a burner and go.
The value of having chase airborne on.
That's a pretty cool shot. 3 on the runway for an afterburner go. Love it.
And any test aircraft is pretty well documented, well understood.
So we'll take a moment here to talk
birds.
About on the screen there. We're providing you with a bit of the telemetry. Honestly, a small fraction of what's coming on.
Let's watch this this thing take off.
The Mach.
Yeah, so we're looking at here. He's just doing a run up. Looks like he's got the mid-engine up to full power, and he's probably going to put all 3 up to full power and then release the brakes.
As the aircraft accelerates,
you can see the stabilators are angled down. He's probably got the trim set for takeoff for the given weight.
Civilian supersonic aircraft.
So I think the first flight was back in March of 24. So this is the first supersonic attempt. He's got all 3 in burner. Looks like it's accelerating pretty good. That gear is pretty wild, very long. A lot of ground clearance. He's airborne. Wow. That's a good looking airplane. Nice backdrop too. There goes the Mirage after him. He's in burner. Man, that thing's climbing. I don't know if the 38 can keep up.
Wow, that was fantastic. Doesn't she look gorgeous?
I
Especially when
agree.
the gears up, she looks an absolutely beautiful airplane. And in the pilot's world, we say that if an aircraft looks right, she'll fly right. And XB-1 certainly looks right.
100%.
The psychiatrists, in fact, tell us that an aircraft like XB-1 looks great and we like it because it appeals to both sides of the brain. The left side for its technology and the right side for its stunning good looks.
That's a good join up by the F1. Pretty quick.
Oh, it slid steeply now, Brett. Why is she climbing so steeply as that?
So that jet has at takeoff basically 1-to-1 thrust. So that's why it's climbing so fast. And he's probably just targeting a climb speed for optimum fuel burn, maybe. All right, here we go for the supersonic run.
In the turn, as you could see from the indicators on
So they're in the mid 30s, 0.88 Mach. This is, you'd be really pushing the 38 up here to keep up. The F1 is close chase, probably making sure, you know, nothing's going wrong with the XB-1. 38 is just a camera ship. They're doing 0.86, so they're getting ready to push it up. It looks like he's got all three engines in burner. That can't be right because he'd be accelerating. There's a control room.
I think they're about to actually an issue your GoPro Excel. So let's listen into the control room comes.
Test control your GoPro Excel to Mach 1.1.
Go time. So gate means burner.
The really exciting part. What's the Mach number in the middle of the screen?
So you can see, okay, so now he's in burner. He's accelerating 9.6.
Mach number's ticking up.
9.7. He's close. There it is. He's over the hump. That's really cool.
We've got confirmation for the control room that she is supersonic. What a wonderful.
That's awesome. 35,000 feet, Mach 1. Almost Mach 1.1.
The first civil aircraft independently
11 minutes into the flight. That's awesome.
It is really.
That's super cool. So, like I said, been 20 years since a civilian airplane has done that. It's crazy to think that Concorde was doing it, you know, back in the, I think that's like 1960s technology is when that airplane was developed. So, you know, we've come a long way, and I think it's time for the rest of us here in the civilian world to be able to have supersonic transport. Shrink the world, all about it. So there you have it, the XB-1 going supersonic. You know, I've flown the T-45. It wouldn't go supersonic. The F-18 would, the T-38 would. And the T-45, I had one of the IPs demo. We actually went past the V&E, and the wing started to dip. So aerodynamically, it did not like supersonic speed. And, you know, it just wasn't built for supersonic flight. So when I got to the Hornet, that thing's obviously supersonic. And I remember the first time I went supersonic, it was awesome. You know, it's something I always thought about. I'd seen The Right Stuff, and I'd read Charles Yeager's book, Yeager, numerous times as a kid growing up. And with modern flight controls and engines and aerodynamics, it was pretty anticlimactic. There was no magic wall in the sky that I was smashing. Literally, the number went past, you know, 0.9. It kind of jumps like you saw here in the XB-1, right? It kind of, there's that whole transonic region. It's kind of weird. But once you punch through that, it's smooth as glass. It's actually kind of quiet. And really the thing that surprised me the most was coming back through the number the other way. So when you came out of burner, the drag was pretty incredible. And the Hornet, much like the XB-1 here, the inlets are designed, right, a certain way to slow down the air from supersonic to subsonic, because you can't have supersonic air going through a jet engine. It just won't work. So a lot of your faster jets use like ramps and all kinds of crazy stuff The Hornet uses just a very simple design of the inlet, so it actually becomes very draggy at speeds because it's just using a shape and it can't adjust. So I think that combined with the way the wing is and it just being overall optimized for mid-level, probably high subsonic speeds, the drag coming back through the number was pretty intense to throw you forward in the seat. So got to the T-38, going supersonic in the 38 was always a little scary because in the back of my mind, I always thought, man, this jet's like older than dirt. And I just always had this vision of like literally hitting the Mach 1 wall in the sky and then vaporizing. Never happened, of course, but my rule was I only took that airplane supersonic if I had a backseat, like an incentive ride, and they asked for it. So if nobody asked for it, I never took that jet supersonic. Some of them would the nose would hunt around really weird, like as you were approaching the number or going through the number, just because, for lack of better words, they're bent. And she's an old girl, like a vintage muscle car. If you beat on it too much, I think it might break. So I didn't want to break it. But the 38, when it did go supersonic, it was also pretty uneventful. But nonetheless, man, going fast is always cool. Hats off to Boom. The next step for them is expanding the envelope on this aircraft, the XB-1, and then stepping up. They have a transport category aircraft that they're working on. So, and I think I read where they already have some orders for this aircraft from some of the airlines. So wish them luck, and yeah, we'll see you next time.